This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. Everything I'm sharing is my opinion.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Hey guys, come on in. Come on in. We have a lot of stuff to unpack. Today, we're going to be talking about new information regarding Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman and the prosecution of who is presenting information to the grand jury. We're going to be talking about red flags in relationship to David Anthony Burke, also known as D4VD's mother. What did she know? I think David dropped a few clues in as to what she knew in this case. And we're going to also consider what private investigator Steve Fischer has said in his most recent interview. This live stream is packed full of important details, so grab yourself some coffee and some snacks. Come on in, stop what you're doing and cozy up to me and tell me where you're from. You can tell me what city, what state, what country, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. So let's begin with new information regarding Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman and the grand jury. And then we're going to consider PI Steve Fischer in his latest statement. We're going to analyze that. And we're going to also be talking about David's mother. This live stream is packed with important details, so please stay with me. So come on in, tell me where you're from, and a huge shout out to Njaz, Michael L. Cole, Deanna, Master Death Hancock, Antonia for sending me, and Veronica for sending me important updates on this. So did you know that Deputy DA Beth Silverman is building a forensic narrative to present to the grand jury, you guys? This is wild. So get this. Veteran attorney, you'll know him best from the the defense work that he did in the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson case. He believes that prosecutors are building a separate forensic narrative to present to a grand jury as they work to determine what happened, a COD basically, to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Say her name, put purple hearts in the chat. Let's advocate for Celeste. And thank you to everybody who has helped me keep this going. So you'll recall that Mark Geragos represented Scott Peterson in the Lacey Peterson case. Now, that was also a case that did not have, that they didn't know exactly had Lacey, but they didn't know exactly how Lacey had been done away with. But yet they were still able to successfully prosecute Scott Peterson. And not only that, but it was a capital punishment case, and the jury did impose this. Now, the sentence was later commuted and he's life in prison without the possibility of parole. But Mark Geragos, I think we can all agree, knows a lot about this, and he would understand how prosecutors would be coming at this case. So he believes that this move was prompted by growing friction between the district attorney's office, the LAPD, the county medical examiner. And we've already seen some of this friction play out. And we've talked about this in the past where the medical examiner wanted to release the COD in what happened to Celeste, and the LAPD did not. And ultimately, the judge issued a court order that basically gagged the ME's office, right? But ultimately, the judge, did side with the deputy district attorney, the district attorney's office, and the LAPD. So what is really going on here? Well, Mark Geragos has a opinion on it, and I think it's worth considering. He thinks that the DA's office brought in, quote, 2 or 3 at least outside experts to reevaluate medical and evidentiary findings related to how Celeste passed away. And you will also recall that we believe that Mark Geragos may be consulting on this case. Speculation alert on that. And just know that everything I'm sharing is my opinion. This video is for adults only, so viewer discretion is advised. But he reiterated and talked about the friction, which we did see play out And he stated, quote, "That tells me they need more than the medical examiner has given them. The medical examiner's office has publicly stated they're not buying what the district attorney is selling, the DA's office is selling." He says, quote, "I suspect they've gotten outside experts taking all of the ME's stuff, taking all of the evidence, and doing a thorough job of reevaluating to present to a grand jury." So this is really interesting to hear that there may be outside experts aside from the ME's office. And so does this go back to that Discord group that we've been talking about that, tries to get kids to do things to other people and also to themselves? Was somebody like enticed to do something to Celeste? So this information is being presented to what we are now learning is a regular grand jury and not an investigative grand jury. So what is the difference between a regular grand jury and an investigative grand jury? Well, a regular grand jury can issue indictments. In contrast, an investigative grand jury can only issue a recommendation to the district attorney's office, and then the district attorney gets to decide if he wants to indict somebody or not. And we saw this play out in the JonBenet Ramsey case, right? Where a grand jury recommended indictments to the DA's office for what happened to JonBenet Ramsey, and the DA at the time, Alex Hunter, declined to press charges. So the fact that this is not an investigative grand jury and that this grand jury in and of itself can issue indictments, I think is really, really helpful to know. So he added that the Los Angeles Police Department this is Mark Geragos, has, quote, most likely completed what he characterized as impressive and a highly detailed timeline of Celeste's final hours. And he characterized it as a yeoman's effort. So sounds like all hands on deck. And he said it goes beyond the information that is currently available to the public. So apparently there is more to this case than we know yet, you guys. So this information is being presented to a regular grand jury that can issue indictments. And Mark Geragos also pushed back on prior speculation that this was merely an investigative grand jury. And this is why he doesn't think that it is. He says that he believes that the assignment of renowned and veteran prosecutor, Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who is a longtime member of the District Attorney's Major Crimes Division. She's like renowned for this, known for securing convictions in complex homicide cases. He sees that the assignment of this superstar deputy district attorney as evidence that the prosecutors are pursuing a standard criminal grand jury proceeding capable of returning charges in this case. He stated, quote, they would never bring in Beth Silverman for an investigative grand jury. This grand jury can result in an indictment. So this was all stated, and my sourcing on this is the LAmagazine.com. So I want to talk about David's mother. Did she see some red flags? And also, and it sounds like she did. And then we're going to analyze what PI Steve Fischer has said in his most recent interview. But let's talk about her statement next. Let me take this down. So come on in, tell me where you're from, and let me put this up. Okay. So this is my favorite group on Reddit. This is the D4VDidiots group on Reddit.
And she was like, that song's too violent and too sad. You're not releasing it. My son is not going to be talking about killing people in music. And I was like, I'm going to take that as a challenge, low key. Because like every time that she doesn't approve of something like that's art and stuff like that, it usually is a sign that I'm supposed to do it, low key.
So she didn't approve. And so I'm just wondering what red flags his mother saw in all of this. Let me put the comments up on the screen. And so what didn't she approve of, and what was bothering her about this what did she know? I mean, and David seems to think that if it irritated or worried or concerned his mother, that was a good thing. Just a quick sound check. Could you guys hear that? Let me just play it one more time. And then we're
So I
going to
made that
continue on.
song. I showed it to my mother, and she was like, "That song's too violent and too sad. You're not releasing it. My son is not going to be talking about killing people in music." And I was like, I'm gonna take that as a challenge, low key, because like every time that she doesn't approve of something like that's art and stuff like that, it usually is a sign that I'm supposed to do it, low key. So I made that song.
But it wasn't art, was it? It just wasn't. So I think that his mother was right, and he probably should have listened to his mom. Let me know if you have a different take on it. But I want to talk about Steve Fischer's latest statement in his most recent interview. We're going to analyze that. So please stay with me. We're going to go through this together. Let me take this down. Okay. Let me take this down and put this up. All right. Let me move myself over here. Let me see. I think I can put myself here. All right. Okay, so Steve Fischer made an appearance. Let's go through this together. Let me turn the closed captions on. All right. This is credit to Nancy Grace.
Who has a home incinerator? Have you seen those things? They're huge. They're huge. Why do you need a home incinerator?
Yeah, the fact that there's a burn cage that's even being alluded to here, Nancy, is quite fascinating. And here's why. A burn cage can burn up to 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. Nancy, that's in the same neighborhood as an actual crematory, all right?
So just a quick sound check. Can you guys hear that? Yes or no? I just don't want to play the whole thing and then find out you guys couldn't hear the interview. His mother was right, Tim. He says, yeah, she was. He says that about his mom, just satisfied the genre. Thank you, Njaz. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to play the interview and then you guys can't hear it because Steve Fischer is going to come on in just a second. But this expert's really interesting too because they're talking about this burn cage. Now, the burn cage and the chainsaw that were both found in David's garage, neither one of them were open. So I have shared with you my theory. I'd love to know if you have a different one, but I think that this was for future use, not for Celeste. If you agree, put a 1 in the chat. If you disagree, put a 2 in the chat. I'm just curious what you guys think.
Crematory, which works on natural gas, it has to be sustained for about 2 to 3 hours. It can render down an entire human remain. All right. If that's the goal here with this thing, there are actually cases out there where burn cages have in fact been used to render down human remains. I'm not saying that that's what's involved here, but the fact that there is one in close proximity to where she found is certainly, from an investigative standpoint, very compelling.
So I agree. And the fact that he was, had this in the garage, it wasn't opened, it wasn't used, it wasn't unpacked, makes me wonder if he was planning to do something like this again. Allegedly, David is innocent until proven guilty. He hasn't been charged with anything.
Joining us now, the man who actually first sees the home incinerator in the mansion of David Burke, D4VD. Joining me right now is a now renowned private investigator, Steve Fischer. Steve, I know that you were hired by the owner of the D4VD mansion to find out what the hay was going on inside the mansion after Celeste's body is found. Where did you see a home incinerator?
The home incinerator was actually inside the house. It wasn't even in the garage. And it was still packed.
Oh, I thought it was in the garage. My bad. I'm so glad that Steve Fischer has been on this case because I have to tell you, without him, we wouldn't know probably half of what we know about this case.
It's a 55-pound, device, and which serves no purpose at that house. And so it immediately raised, huge alarm bells with us. And it, especially considering found in the Tesla, and you got to wonder what the plans were ultimately to maybe get rid of her. permanently.
I got a question for you, Steve Fischer. You state that the home incinerator was still packaged. Did you take photos of it?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you know what kind of incinerator it is, the name brand?
Yeah, it's made by a company called Dr. Burn, and their whole advertisement is that it burns at 1,600 degrees, and human cremations are done at 1,400 degrees. So this is meant to reduce things, including animal carcasses and whatnot. And this is something you would typically find on a farm.
And so now we know why Steve was characterizing this in one of his interviews as a farm implement, right?
Well, I've got a question for you. Why are you saying it's used for animal carcasses? I'm not saying that it's not, but did you see anything on the package to inform you of that?
So as soon as we found it on the outside, it clearly says Dr. Burn, and we went right to their website, and they're advertising, and other people's using it on YouTube. It shows that's what it's for. Now, it's not just for animal carcasses; it can incinerate literally anything. But this is something that's not even legal in the Hollywood Hills because of the fire ordinances and whatnot. And then we also found it with a chainsaw, and so there's just a lot of questions, and it's a horrible look.
So.
And the other thing is that we're now hearing that that David purchased these using gift cards. So remember, Steve Fischer told us that this farm implement, this burn cage, was purchased under a different name other than David, and people were like, "Oh, but he's a celebrity. Maybe he didn't want it under his own name." That's possible, but then why are you purchasing it with a gift card? That reminds me of Ryan Kohlberger. If you guys think that he was trying to hide the fact that he was purchasing these items, put a yes in the chat. If you think he was not trying to hide, put a no.
Let me understand. Steve Fischer, hired by the owner of Burke's mansion where he was renting it, you find a home incinerator. What I find very critical, two things. If you go to the, as you're calling it, Dr. Burn, it's original burn cage. There are YouTube videos about burning animal carcasses. So if I looked up home incinerator to burn carcass, that would pop up. Curious. So right there, and I'll circle back to you, Brian Fitzgibbons, there needs to be a full-on digital search as to whether that query was ever typed into anybody's phone, laptop, iPad, you name it. But okay, so I know that pops up. But what I find very critical, Steve, is the date of the purchase. For instance, let me just throw this at you. You remember Brian Kohlberger, of course, who goes on Amazon and buys a dagger, a K-bar knife that was used to murder 4 innocent University of Idaho students. And his Amazon search was uncovered, and the purchase, and where he looked to buy a replacement after the murders. We know, for instance, cult mom Lori Vallow goes onto Amazon and buys a wedding dress, a groom's outfit, and a ring before her new husband's wife is killed. Amazon is a beautiful thing. So I'm curious, Steve Fischer, when the burn cage was purchased. We've heard about the burn cage. What we haven't heard about is, what does it prove? Is it probative? It was still in the package. It wasn't used to destroy her body. But if I can draw a nexus between the time of her death and the time that burn cage was purchased, I got something. What about it, Fischer?
Yeah, so we don't have the exact date, but it just so happened that on January 19th, the owner had an inspection done of the house. Was very thorough with photographs. At that time, we know that the burn cage was not at the house on January 19th. And so sometime between the 19th and, when the search warrant happened in September is when this arrived. And, it's also around the time that the new Tesla arrived on February 1st. So
Okay, so I think that is going to give us some big clues into the timeline. What do you guys think? If you agree, put agree in the chat. If you disagree, put disagree in the chat. But do you think that the fact that he purchased this in February, along with that new red Tesla, even though he had $100,000 black Tesla, that this is all related to the timeline for Celeste? And we know the last known photo of Celeste was January 2nd that we know about, right? Let's continue on together, shall we? Let's continue on.
There seemed to be a lot happening at the end of January, beginning of February, but as of January 19th, it was not there. But after, as of September, it was there. So it appears it was ordered between those dates.
Okay, joining me, as I said,
So does this give us a clue as to why Steve Fischer was talking about January 2nd to January 20th, of why he wanted photos for in between those two dates specifically? Remember, we talked about what's significant about January 20th. Well, now we are learning that this incinerator was purchased, it sounds like, on the 19th.
All-Star panel. Joe Scott, you've got a question for Fisher?
Hey, Steve.
Hold on. Joe Scott, I got to warn you about one thing, Joe Scott.
Yeah.
Isn't it true, Steve Fischer, that you were called in front of the grand jury? Can you confirm that?
I can't say anything about a grand jury.
Okay, well,
But he's nodding, so yeah.
if you had not been called, you would have said no. So I'm going to take that as a yes. I've got a funny feeling.
So the body language, I think, is pretty telling there. You don't have to be a body language expert to say that this is significant. Watch her ask this question.
Steve Fischer, that you were called in front of the grand jury. Can you confirm that?
I can't say anything about a grand jury.
Okay, well, if you had not been called, you would have said no. So I'm going to take that as a yes.
So his body language, in my opinion, gives it away. Let me know what you think about that.
I've got a funny feeling that the prosecutor is going to be extremely irritated with you because you found evidence that the LAPD had not found yet. And I'm referring specifically to the Tesla with the dead body in the trunk of a little girl, Celeste Rivas. You found that, and you scoured the neighborhood and got the Ring doorbell cam and the surveillance cam and could show that the car was being moved around the neighborhood so nobody would complain it's parked out in front of their house. You even caught one of the driver's face. You still haven't revealed to me who that is. And LAPD or the DA's office didn't find any of that. So I guess she's a little ill with you right now. That said, I have a source telling me you were called in front of the grand jury, whether you confirm it or deny it. Okay, Joe Scott, the point being he may not be able to answer some of our questions, but have at it.
So, I mean, I agree with Nancy. He absolutely was called in front of a grand jury. Even though he said no, his body language says yes.
I'll try to make it
In
as
my
general as
opinion.
possible. Hey, Steve, Joseph Scott Morgan. I got a question for you. I've been through this area before, only as a tourist. I could never afford, to even know anyone there. High dollar area. If you rent a place up there, it would seem odd that it would be incumbent upon that person to do their own landscaping work. And I'm fascinated about this chainsaw and this idea that I'm sure the shrubs are lovely. Are you, and you've got this, from what I'm understanding, an unopened chainsaw there. What would be the purpose of someone having this thing, and when did it show up?
Well, so you nailed it exactly. Because I've heard some people say that, people have chainsaws that do yard work and trim trees. This was a rental that the owner was completely in charge of all the maintenance, including the pool.
And when he says rental, he's talking about the mansion, you guys, not the chainsaw.
The tree trimming, everything. That this was plug and play. They didn't have to do any of their own yard work. So there's no.
Okay, so the idea that the defense team is going to suddenly claim that this was for yard work is going to be debunked because the owner provided all of that with the rental price. You paid one flat fee and
In this thing, and when did it show up?
Well, so you nailed it exactly. So because I've heard some people say that, well, people have chainsaws to do yard work and trim trees. This was a rental that the owner was completely in charge of all the maintenance, including the pool, the tree trimming, everything. That this was plug and play. They didn't have to do any of their own yard work. So there's no reason for it to be there. And it showed up again after January 19th. It was not there because there was photo documentation of that walkthrough of the inspection, annual inspection. So it showed up after, between, the time of the search, January 19th and the time of the search warrant.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this explains why he was looking for photos of Celeste between January 2nd and January 20th. And when I say he, I'm talking about private investigator Steve Fischer. We all wondered the significance of the January 20th date. And now we know why. This is when this burn cage and chainsaw were arrived at the mansion.
You're absolutely right. They're not responsible for any of that maintenance, and can't think of any reason that they would need a chainsaw there.
Joining us now, Melissa McCarty, investigative journalist and author of The Making of a Crime Reporter. Melissa, thank you for being with us. You have a question for Fischer? Go ahead.
I do. Hey, Steve, two questions for you. One is, who were the two items addressed to? Was it the owner of the house or somebody else? And also, it's my understanding the LAPD, they did not take those items as evidence, but do you know if there was any kind of brushing of fingerprints to see if David or somebody else in his inner circle at one point laid their hands on those boxes or collected those boxes, touched them to link the two?
Very good question. So they did not take the items. We contacted them and asked them specifically about it, and they told us that they photographed them, but they did not fingerprint them. And there was no dust or anything on them, and they didn't appear to luminol them either because they hadn't been removed from the packaging. So as far as who they were addressed to, they were addressed in a fake name, somebody that did not live at the residence, but they accepted the packages at the residence. And we believe, just from the investigation we've been able to do, that they used prepaid gift cards to purchase the items.
Whoa.
Boom. Just like Brian Kohlberger, you guys. Brian Kohlberger used his no name, but he purchased that K-bar knife with gift cards. Now we're learning David used a fake name, and people thought, well, maybe it's because he was a celebrity. Okay, but then why would you use gift cards to purchase it? You guys, it just isn't a good look. Let's continue on together.
Wait. You're giving me all new information. Wait a minute. Are you telling me, have you told anybody else this? Are you telling me the home incinerator was addressed to a fake name, but somebody in that house accepted the package?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct.
How do you know that? Did you see the name?
Yes.
What was the name? How do you know it was fake?
Well, when I say fake name, it's somebody that does not live at the residence. It's the name of a female that does not live at the residence. Yet they accepted, they signed for the package through DHL.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, is this going to be the accomplice? Is this going to be the accomplice? Is accomplice going to end up being a female? If you think it's going to be a female, put female in the chat. If you think it's a male, put male in the chat. Let's see where you guys are at on this.
I'm learning so much right now. Okay, so this guy did not go run down to Home Depot and buy a home incinerator. That means somebody went online, Steve Fischer, and ordered it. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I'm sure those records are very subpoenable.
Okay, Danny Rubin joining me right now, veteran criminal defense attorney, founder of the Rubin Law Firm. Danny, thank you for being with us tonight. I was ill. I was getting a chest pain that was radiating up into my teeth when I was hearing Steve Fischer talking about, no, they did not seize the home incinerator. They did not seize the chainsaw. They did not fingerprint them. They did not luminol them. I mean, that's bad police work right there. that they just took pictures of them? Because, juries, they want to look at it. They want to touch it, hold it, feel it, smell it, the whole shebang. But then I was heartened when I heard him say it was sent to a fake name to somebody that doesn't live there, to this address, and it was accepted by someone in that home, which tells me there is a digital trail, Danny Rubin. It proves a lot.
And it may reveal the accomplice, you guys. What do you guys think? Is the accomplice male or female? Let me see what you guys think. Some people are saying both. I didn't even think of that as an option. Let me see where you guys are at on this. All right, so female. Hey, Rianne. Both. Female. Both. Female. Male plus female. Chrisanne says both. Thank you for modding today, Michael and Chrisanne. Mel says, I think there are multiple male and female. Oh my gosh. Corona thinks it's a female. Lou's patron thinks it's both. Cabling, thank you for modding, thinks it's a lot of little helpers. Thank you for modding today, Njaz. And Ashley says maybe January 22nd is when he'll be arrested. Brienne thinks it's both. And Tara says it would really make sense to us to use a fake name because delivery people are used to delivering packages to places like this. And Yvonne thinks he had a squad. We don't know yet. It wasn't delivered to Home Depot. It was delivered to David's mansion, you guys. And he used gift cards. Whoever purchased this used gift cards to buy it. And it was in the name of somebody that he knows, but accepted by someone inside the mansion. Let's continue on together. You guys, this is really revealing a lot.
I mean, what it can prove is the account that ordered it. It doesn't necessarily prove who ordered it. I mean, when I look at a case like this, I look at who's got the most to lose here. David had to know that if he is the one that would be culpable for this, he'd be the first one to be looked at. My question is, who's the second or who's the third? That's the person I'd want to investigate as his defense attorney.
You would want to investigate them to what? Just let's pretend for a moment that you're David Anthony Burke's lawyer. You want to look at everybody around him. So let's just be real here. So you can pull a SOD. Some other dude did it defense. So you're looking around at everybody else. Is that what you're saying? Just be straight.
Well, my question is, what if someone else actually did do it? I mean, his two managers are around him all the time. They're the ones that are economically invested. Robert Morgenroth was actually, as far as I've read, called to testify at the grand jury, and he was recorded saying, "Why didn't I call the police?" Yes, the manager.
But I think that the deputy district attorney, Beth Silverman, probably gave him an immunity deal because remember, he got dragged into allegedly, reportedly, Department 123, which is where the judge doesn't, when you're doing a grand jury, the judge doesn't sit in the room and preside over it. It's, basically presented, all the evidence is presented by the prosecution, and they're required to present anything that would be exculpatory to David Anthony Burke. But this is wild, you guys. This is absolutely wild. So he's saying he would go after Josh Marshall and Rob M as potential some other dude did it suspects.
Okay. So, they tried.
Let's
called to testify at the grand jury. And he was recorded saying, "Why didn't I call the police?" Yes, the manager.
Okay. So, they tried and it worked in the Top Mom Casey Anthony murder case when she got her mother, Cindy Anthony, to go on the stand under oath and fall on her sword and take the blame for the highly damning searches for how to make chloroform. She said that she wrote chlorophyll, not chloroform, and that the computer spell checked her because she wanted to get rid of bamboo in the backyard. It made no sense at all.
I think this is a great analogy, but I also think that there is no way that Josh Marshall and Rob Morgenroth are going to fall on their sword for David. If you agree or disagree, let me know right now in the top chat. Put in yes, you agree, yes, agree, or no, disagree. And let's see what you guys say.
That said, it worked in that case, so I can't poo-poo it that quickly. Brian Fitzgibbons is joining us now. Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security. Brian, you also, in your search for people all around the world, are an expert at digital forensics. Brian, what should they be doing right now to determine who ordered the burn cage?
Yeah, I want to applaud Steve Fischer, Nancy, and the work that he's done, and identifying that the purchase was made with these gift cards, that it was delivered to a fictitious name or a name that wasn't at the residence. You know, this is going to provide investigators with a good foothold to begin that forensic search and subpoena these purchase records of what date this burn cage was purchased, on what IP address was the system access. They're going to be able to get quite a bit of information off of that purchase. And I think that you will see that provided that this moves forward to trial.
Yeah, you know what? You brought up another issue, Brian Fitzgibbons. Thank you. I was so taken by the fact that this was obviously ordered online. I wonder if they're going to be able to find where the purchaser watched that YouTube video Fisher just told us about, how the home fire cage can burn dead carcasses. Question to you, Steve Fischer, owner, founder of Steve Fischer SF Investigations. Steve, how do you know that it was bought with gift cards?
No, so I want to be clear. From what we've uncovered, it looks to us like it was purchased with gift cards from, you know, the communications that we've had. I can't say that 100% for certain, but it appears that that's how it was done. But, you know, we haven't
What
gotten
kind of gift cards? Please say Amazon. What kind of gift cards? American Express, Visa, Home Depot?
Yeah, one of those you go to Target and buy like a prepaid Visa or Amex or whatever, you know, like that. Just something that doesn't have your name attached to it. Although you do have to, I guess, technically register it, but you can use that in anybody's name. But I'll bet you that there is an email address that they formed this person's name, this fake name. So, and then that'll probably reside on one of those computers, and you know, I think they'll be able to tie it all back to them.
And so in the Brian Kohlberger case, they had to get search warrants. The prosecution did, and the police did. The Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI were all working on the Brian Kohlberger case. And somebody got a search warrant for Amazon, and that's how they found out that Brian Kohlberger had ordered this K-bar knife back in the spring of 2022. So he had been thinking about this and fantasizing about doing what he did to Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Xana for a long time. And so this is really damaging, in my opinion, for David, because I don't think that Josh Marshall and Rob Morgenroth are going to fall on their sword for David.
I don't think these are geniuses by any means.
You said that you can't say gift cards were used 100%, but that you have personally done, you and your team have done investigations that lead you to believe that gift cards were used. You're telling me the gift cards were not to a specific store such as Home Depot or Lowe's. You're telling me they were of the variety that you can go to Target and get like American Express or Visa gift cards. Is that correct?
Yes, right. Yes.
Okay, which leads me to believe that they were bought at Target. Were they bought at Target?
Oh, I honestly have no idea about that. I'm just saying that, you know, like they're a seller of those. I don't know where they bought the gift cards at, but they were delivered, you know, through a, you know, delivery service, like you order online, and it appears that they use DHL to ship this, you know, item.
To ship the gift cards or to ship the burn cage?
The burn cage. The burn cage. So I think it's going to be fairly easy to track it back.
Okay, Karen Stark joining me, forensic psychologist, renowned TV radio trauma expert, consultant at KarenStark.com. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Can't you just see? You know there's going to be video, right? They have cameras everywhere, specifically on the registers. Can't you just see this merry troop slinking into a store and getting all these gift cards, which is, they think, so sneaky because it's not in their name. I wonder if they paid in cash, or did they charge it? Oh, I hope they charged it. Trying so hard to cover up, yet leaving a trail a mile wide for somebody like Steve Fischer to find.
It's very clear that these people were disorganized, Nancy. I mean, nobody really understood that. How could you leave even the body in a car and keep moving the car around and not think that somebody would notice it, especially where they were? And if you consider the fact that she was dismembered, and then you also look at the fact that someone ordered a chainsaw, somebody ordered this burn incinerator, it's very telling that there was intent, or at least it seems that way, that they turned this body, it was dehumanized. And they were looking for any way, according to me, it seems, to get rid of the body without even thinking about this as a person.
Back to Steve Fischer, following up on what Karen Stark, psychologist, said. Steve Fischer, isn't it true that D4VD, aka David Anthony Burke, was going on tour? So if Celeste was already dead, they wait and they wait and they wait, and the home incinerator doesn't show up. They're like, hell, let's put her in the trunk. That's going to be the argument. Of course, they're all presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Mhm.
So finally, you know what? Back up and punt. And she ends up in the trunk. Can't you just see that playing out, Fisher? Then the incinerator comes a day late, $1 short. Should have used FedEx. But no, they used DHL. What about it, Fisher?
Yeah, personally, I think the incinerator was already there. I think this became a case of them chickening out. They, or whoever was supposed to do it didn't do it, and then they just ran out of time. I mean, this is what baffles me about the whole case. We're talking about people that are, quite frankly, idiots, and now how is it taking this many months to be able to put this case together to become chargeable? Because these are not people that pulled off a perfect crime, and this is the part that really baffles me. Is it's so sloppy, yet there's apparently not enough to charge them yet. I don't understand.
PI Steve Fischer claims he found a burn cage incinerator and a chainsaw inside the home rented for Burke by his manager. Employed by the property owner to determine what took place in his house, Fisher uncovered the items still in their original packaging and were unused. The incinerator is illegal in Los Angeles, delivered to the residents under a fake name, and claims to reach a temperature of 1,600 degrees.
So 1,600 degrees is, you only need 1,400 degrees to damage, I'm watching my words here, to do what they were going to do. So was this for Celeste and they ran out of time? Or was this for someone in the future, you guys?
Hi, guys. Nancy Grace here. The Fed has dropped interest.
Oh, we got an ad she's got her ad built in. All right, let's continue on. This is a lot of information, really, really great. And I just, good job to Steve Fischer for his investigation work. He doesn't have the power of subpoena, which is why he cannot tell us the answers about whether or not, the gift cards were, what kind of gift cards they were. All he would be able to determine is it was ordered using a gift card, but he wouldn't have the ability to subpoena, Amazon or whoever they ordered it from to gather that information, or be able to subpoena who exactly the gift card came from. Or he does know, and he's just not able to say it because he did testify before the grand jury. What do you guys think? Does Steve Fischer know more than he's able to tell us? Put yes, he knows more, or no, I don't think he knows more. In my opinion, he knows more. Let's continue on. This is a great interview with Nancy Grace.
Body found in his...
I can't do the music because I don't have the copyright to it.
Right now is going to be asked to hand down an indictment. An investigative grand jury can be useful to subpoena and then force uncooperative witnesses to testify. And sources now say the grand jury hearing witnesses is actually one that will vote on indictments. And these sources indicate Prosecutor Beth Silverman, among others, believes Burke was involved in the death of Celeste.
Okay, so these sources, they're saying sources plural, and the source that I've heard about is Mark Geragos. So it sounds like Crime Stories with Nancy Grace has confirmed that it is a regular grand jury, which is really good news for justice for Celeste.
So let me understand, to Dave Mack joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Dave, we were first told this grand jury was just an investigative grand jury that was gathering evidence on Celeste's death. Now we're learning an indictment looms, and it is a homicide indictment. I never had any doubt that this grand jury was going to seek charges. Do I have that right, Dave Mack? We're expecting a grand jury indictment to come down.
That's what everything is pointing towards, Nancy, right now, expecting an indictment to be handed down for homicide.
Danny Rubin, you have dealt with many, many grand jury indictments. I don't know if you're a former prosecutor, but were you a former prosecutor at any point, Danny?
No, defense attorney from the very beginning, but I've dealt with the aftermath.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Long story short, if the grand jury is meeting to indict, not just investigate, that means they have to pick a charge, Reuben. They've got to go with, if it's homicide, murder 1, murder 2, voluntary or involuntary. And then, of course, there's felony murder. They've got to pick between those charges. They could indict in the alternative, which means a murder 1 with a murder 2 and a voluntary or even involuntary, all in the same indictment so a jury can pick. So if they're going to go with murder 1, go with me, Reuben, go with me. That means they either got the COD from the body, which was decomposed, and they know there was either a gunshot wound, a broken hyoid bone to suggest asphyxiation, something in toxicology, a knife nick to one of the bones. They've either got it from the body itself or they've got a witness to say she was murdered and this is what happened. Because they got to indict on those few choices, murder 1, murder 2, voluntary, involuntary. That's all the choices there are for homicide. To do murder 1 or murder 2, they had to find something from the body or a witness. What do you think?
I think if they had something from the body, they would have been bringing charges a lot sooner. It seems like if they're looking into indicting for homicide, whichever one they pick, they probably got some information from a witness that they questioned over the past month or two. I know they're going to be calling back witnesses in February. That's what I read. So it seems like they're still trying to find more evidence. But if they're looking to switch that investigation now, it's probably because of something someone said, possibly in conjunction with something they found on the body.
Dave Mack, speaking of witnesses.
So this makes a lot of sense because what Mark Geragos told us, and he's a California practicing criminal defense attorney, very respected, very renowned. What he shared with LA Magazine is that he did think that the district attorney's office, which is being represented by prosecutor and deputy DA Beth Silverman, that they were putting witnesses on the stand to testify as to how Celeste was done away with. So if the ME was very definitive in what they were saying, and they absolutely knew the COD, what caused Celeste to pass away, then they would probably just go with the ME's office by themselves. I don't think they would need these additional witnesses. What do you think? Do you think this? Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? Do you think that this is why they are putting extra witnesses on the stand? If you agree, put an A in the chat. If you disagree, put a B in the chat.
Before the grand jury, isn't it true that witnesses, at least one, has refused to come to the grand jury? Isn't that true?
Absolutely true, Nancy. And they've gone so far as to threaten to arrest her if she won't come in.
Danny Rubin, I'm just wondering, let's just put together the pieces here, Reuben. A witness stated that she refused to come to the grand jury. An order went out to either bring her in, have her arrested, give her immunity if she was facing charges herself. Therefore, she would have no reason to take the Fifth Amendment from the grand jury or charge her with contempt. If you're a target, you can be given immunity and forced to testify because you have no Fifth Amendment right to remain silent if you're not going to be charged. Or if you're just a witness, you can be held in contempt and jailed until you testified. Okay, so that word goes out, and the next thing you know, an indictment is being handed down. Sounds to me like they got the witness testified, and now we're looking at a homicide indictment.
That could be it. I mean, like I said before, it could be something in conjunction with what they found in the body. It could be some combination of testimonies. But this is why we have subpoena powers, because both the prosecution and defense, prosecution and grand jury, defense at trial and preliminary hearing, we need that to bring in witnesses who can testify. And many times we can't get what we need without those witnesses. So it's a very big stick that we have to bring witnesses in that we need.
Danny Rubin, you have a question for Steve Fischer?
Yeah, Steve, when you investigated the home where David was reportedly living, was there anything else of note that you found? Anything still in its wrapper? Anything that was looked like it had not been taken out of its packaging?
No, besides those two items, there was a couple full respirators, almost like gas masks at the house, but they were out of the package. Don't know exactly what they were for, but those were the two, most damning things for sure. There was a lot of stuff left behind that was of value, such as the memory card with all the photos, but nothing that really was like, what would that be doing here?
What did he need gas masks for? Was that for the smell? Were they trying to use some other chemical to break down what was left of this baby girl? Let me know what you think. Let's continue on.
Joe Scott Morgan joining me, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, star of Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan. Joe Scott, we're learning a lot tonight. Okay, we knew that there was a chainsaw. We knew that there was a home incinerator. We didn't know that it had been purchased with gift cards anonymously and that it had been sent under a fake name. Now we know that purchase can be traced, and we can find out, hopefully, if there's video, who bought the gift cards and where and when. What does this mean to you forensically? What can we prove with this new evidence?
Well, I think certainly with the gift cards in particular, because that is something that can be digitally traced. And just let me remind everybody, these gift cards can be picked up anywhere. It doesn't have to be at a big store. You can walk into a gas station and buy these things. So, but the upside with
but
this
it can be traced, Joe Scott, the location of where the gift card, they got numbers on them like guns, for Pete's sake. You can find where a gift card was purchased.
Yeah, and the digital evidence here gets very granular. And so it's going to be very specific. You can put a really tight pin in this thing. Also, the initial purchase, the utility of these things, and then you track along with the purchases that are made. Now, I'm going to use a term here, and I'm sure you'll slap me down for saying this. I got to tell you, Nancy, from a legal standpoint, the things I've heard attorneys say in the past with these boxes of unopened items, when you think about the chainsaw and this burn box and these sorts of things, this almost smacks of like an inchoate offense. I don't know. I think I'd like to know your opinion of that, but there's planning going on, perhaps, if they can prove that, and maybe there is intent, but they just couldn't complete the act here. Going back to what Steve had said earlier, this seems like old reference here, the apple dumpling gang. They just can't get anything right. They're just kind of falling on their faces. No one can pull the trigger. There's not a leader. It's just like,
yeah, he's right. And think about this. Steve Fischer went in after David moved out of the mansion. David hired movers and videotaped them moving his stuff, probably to prevent a second search warrant from being issued, right? That would be the reason to move out so fast. And probably the manager, Josh Marshall, who had his name on the lease, wanted him out. But he moved out and was somebody was the security guard was videotaping this. Who were they videotaping it for? I think David was on the other end of that. So why was he's right when he says apple dumpling gang. Why would you leave behind the chainsaw and the burn barrel? And then what was taken out that we don't know about? What have we not heard about yet?
Like they push this thing off in the ether and maybe she'll just disappear. I don't know, because I got to tell you, out of all the cases I've covered, I've never seen anything, first off, take this long. You've got a lot of elements here of movement with the body, going to Karen's point of disrespecting the remains to this point. And then you have all these other elements where no one could finish the job.
Okay, you refer to...
I do think that is very telling. All of these elements and nobody could finish the job. I think that is so true. Let me just say thank you to Michael L. Cole. We're not done. We're going to continue on with this interview, but I do want to make sure I say thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. That is so kind of you. Thank you, Michael. And thank you to NJazz. She gifted a reporter room membership. If you got that, please make sure you say thank you to NJazz. Congratulations to whoever got that membership. And thank you so much, NJazz. And thank you to Deno Blitz. Oh gosh, I hope I'm saying your name. Deno Blitz Iart. I hope I'm saying that right, for the €10. She says, thanks for all of your research. Keep on. And got heart emojis and strong arm emojis. Let's bust them. D4VD. Thank you so much. That is so kind of you. And thank you so much, NJazz, for gifting 5 reporter room memberships. That is so kind of you. If you got one of those, please make sure you say thank you to NJazz. All right, so this is so congratulations if you got one of those memberships. Incognito said, yay, more European money in the chat. Let's go. Oh, that's so sweet. All right, let's continue on. So was this like the apple dumpling gang? Or, it just seems like, I agree with his assessment. It just seems like they didn't know what they were doing. But in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I believe that David kept her for control and domination. I don't necessarily think it was an accident that he kept her. Let me know if you have a different take on it. It sounds like they think that they just, for whatever reason, didn't follow through. I think it was that he couldn't let go. That's my opinion.
Incohate, from the Latin verb incohere, which means in its inception, in its beginning, just starting. So I see this, if any of this is borne out by the facts, and again, David Burke is presumed innocent until proven guilty. The beginning of the destruction of the body went because the burn cage and the chainsaw, and we do know she was dismembered where you come in. They obviously did not use a chainsaw. Hey, Steve Fischer, was the chainsaw also still in the package?
It had the protective shield over the blade. It wasn't in an actual package, but it's but it had the protective shield over it.
Boy, I would love to know if they were able to get any DNA off of that, you guys. It would just be so great to know. Do you guys think that there was any DNA on that package? Yes or no? Tell me what you think. Yes, DNA, no DNA. Just curious if you think they could get anything off that. While you guys do that, I want to say thank you so much to NJazz, for our executive producer. Thank you so much for all of your wonderful help researching and all your support. Thank you so much to our producers, Sasha Angel, George Brown, Michael L. Cole, Christy Valentine, and Tina Hernandez. Thank you, Michael, for all of your wonderful research. And thank you to our amazing channel members who allow me to cover niche cases like this one and to be able to stay on this case and just keep bringing information to you day after day and week after week. Thank you guys so much. This is really a team effort. And again, shout out to... we have quite a few people who were so helpful in sharing information. And Jazz, Michael L. Cole, Deanna, Master Death Hancock, Antonia, and Veronica for sending me tips this week. If you would like to send me a tip, you can send it to my email. If you have a tip in this case or something that you've caught, maybe you caught something when you were looking at images or going through something and you want to send it to me, let me post that. Let me see. Here's my email right here. You can send it to tips4jessica at outlook.com. So feel free to email me if you have some information on this case. We are going to be talking about Spencer and Monique Tepe in the next live stream that I'm about to do. So if you want to join me for that, if you're following that case, if you're not, oh my gosh, it's very, very interesting. A married couple was done away with inside their own home and nobody's been held accountable for it. I also want to do a big thank you for coffee and super thanks, and also for gifted channel memberships. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. Follow me over. We're going to do the Tepe case right. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Give this a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below.